the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury!
From the Predator being robbed against the Gypsy King, to Tyson Fury having everything to lose if they fight again, let's talk about the Tyson Fury vs. Francis Ngannou rematch plans and why they're insane. Since Francis and Fury are two of the biggest names in combat sports, there was a lot of hype surrounding their fight, but almost everyone thinks the Predator was robbed. Whenever MMA icons transition into boxing, they usually don't do too well. After all, Conor McGregor lost to Floyd Mayweather, and Nate Diaz was defeated by Jake Paul. So when everyone heard about Ngannou squaring off against Tyson, they thought it would be the same result. Francis would come in swinging with terrible technique, while Fury would outclass him and get the W easily. To the boxing world's surprise, the exact opposite happened. Francis came in there and showed off some of the best boxing techniques you'll see, as he was throwing the perfect punches, unlike Conor and Diaz. The Predator was out there looking like he'd been boxing for years, and it was incredible to witness. His power and technique were so good that he even scored a vicious knockdown in the third round of the fight. Even otherwise, he was piecing up the Gypsy King with ease, while all Tyson did was land some weak jabs. Not to mention, he even elbowed Francis by mistake, yet a point wasn't deducted. The former UFC heavyweight champ had such an impressive performance that he's now ranked as the 10th best heavyweight under the WBC. Almost everyone had Ngannou winning the bout, except for the judges, of course. When Bruce Buffer announced that Fury won by split decision, everyone was pissed. 90% of boxing fans were sold on the fact that Francis had done enough to get the job done. And it didn't take long for the robbed comments to flood every social media post about the fight. People were insanely disappointed with Fury's showing and didn't feel he deserved a win for such a lackluster performance. Francis himself said it was a robbery and called for a rematch. But what really drives the point home is the fact that various pros are agreeing with the Predator. Chris Eubank Jr. was watching the fight from ringside and said the Predator won it in his eyes, before saying that Fury deserved to lose after struggling against a dude who was making his boxing debut. Even the Predator's old foe, Junior Dos Santos, called the decision mad, while Roberto Duran said Fury lost the bout. On top of that, much like myself, Henry Cejudo believes that Francis is the rightful lineal heavyweight boxing champ now. With so much controversy surrounding the bout, there's no way the Fury vs. Ngannou saga can come to an end. There are still so many questions we need answered. However, at the end of the day, Fury did win the fight, and since boxing is his domain, he calls the shots. Yet he still seems pretty open to a rematch, which is surprising. So that begs the question, does he accept that he shouldn't have won the fight in the first place? It sure does seem like it. For starters, even though Tyson said he knew the Predator had a puncher's chance, it's clear as day that he wasn't expecting Francis to be as great as he was. He even said that Ngannou was very awkward to fight, and that the former UFC champ gave him one of the toughest fights of his career. The Gypsy King even called Francis a good fighter, as the Cameroonian landed a lot of great shots against him. Fury also went on record and said that both men will probably have a rematch down the line somewhere, before asking, "Who'd have thought?" What's more, he hasn't talked about how he deserved to win, but instead all he said was, "I got the win and that's how it is." Now, if you know Tyson, you know that he's always talking trash about how he's better than everyone else. But after the Ngannou fight, he hasn't done that at all. The fact that he gave so many props to the Predator while saying that they'll have a rematch at some point, it's obvious that Fury feels like he didn't really win the match. Plus, his comments about getting the win make it seem like he knows he got lucky. He also knows that most people in the boxing world have lost a lot of respect for him, so dominating Francis in a rematch is the only way people will respect him again. And since both men want to run it back, it's fair to assume it'll happen soon. Heck, even Tyson's promoter thinks it will. While Ariel Helwani was speaking to Frank Warren, he asked the promoter what the chances are of the rematch happening and what he said will make boxing fans really happy. According to Warren, there's a good chance of that happening, but of course, it's not the main thing on Fury's mind right now. Frank pointed to how the heavyweight champ first has to deal with the mega fight against Alexander Usyk in February. Warren went on to say that Tyson's told him that he wants the rematch, so be ready guys, because it seems like both men are gonna battle it out once more in 2024. And whenever it happens, it's gonna be huge. Both fighters will have a point to prove, making it all the more exciting for us. You see, before the Ngannou fight, Fury was hailed as the greatest heavyweight boxer of the modern era, if not the greatest boxer pound for pound. Everyone would hype the Gypsy King up and back him against whoever he faced. But after the Francis fight, Tyson's image has taken a massive hit. After all, he was up against an MMA fighter who was making his boxing debut, yet he still got beaten up that bad? That's straight up unacceptable. So Fury has no choice but to fight the Predator again and show the world what he's truly made of. It'll be tough, but Fury will need to KO Ngannou the way he KO'd Wilder in their second fight. As for Francis, he's on a mission to prove that he's better than the greatest heavyweight boxer of the modern era. Many people already believe that he was robbed, but there are a few Tyson Fury fans who've been defending him, so in the rematch, the Predator needs to punch Fury so hard that he can't get back up. But of course, that's easier said than done. You never know what might happen in the rematch, so now let's take a look at both men's strengths and weaknesses, because that'll allow us to see who has the edge. Starting with Fury, this guy's got some of the greatest boxing IQ of all time. And when you couple that with almost flawless technique, he's a tough guy to beat. He's known for operating with his hands by his waist, feints, amazing head movement, and terrific footwork. The Gypsy King's always light on his feet as he's always moving at range. He'll shuffle and pivot his feet quite often, and he's also known to L-step and sidestep a lot as well. As for his upper body feints, he constantly makes use of his lead shoulder besides shooting his arm out to the side to threaten his foes with a check hook. Fighters get overwhelmed by his tactics, which allows him to establish his lead hand. And if you've watched his fights, you'd know how deadly his jab is. On top of that, he's even got an incredible left hook. But above all, ever since the second Wilder fight, he's shown that he has serious KO power. As for his weaknesses, there aren't many other than the fact that it's relatively easy to knock him down. Moving on to Ngannou, his obvious strength is the sheer amount of power his fists possess. And as the fight with Fury taught us, he doesn't just swing wildly with poor technique. No, this guy can throw vicious punches with amazing form, which makes him a tough guy to face. And this also makes him a better fighter than Wilder, who just relies on power. If Francis was so good in his debut, it's only fair to assume that he'll be even better in the rematch. So in all honesty, I'm predicting a KO victory for the Predator. Keeping that in mind, let me ask you guys this. Who do you think has more at stake? Well, I'd say it's Fury, who has a lot to lose. Sure, Francis does too by not being taken as seriously if he gets dominated by Fury. But at the end of the day, he hasn't been a pro boxer for years like the Gypsy King. Tyson, on the other hand, has been billed as this indestructible titan, but Ngannou showed us that it's possible to beat him. And if and when he does that in the rematch, Fury's career is gonna be finished. Nobody would take him seriously since he'd have lost to a man who barely had any boxing experience. That just should not be happening if you're the heavyweight champ. So not only will everyone turn on Tyson, but he won't be able to achieve the same heights he did between 2018 and 2021. Unfortunately for Tyson, though, he has no choice but to say yes to the rematch. So, from the Gypsy King having everything to lose if they fight again, to the Predator being robbed against Fury, that was everything on the Tyson versus Ngannou rematch plans and why they're insane.